What's up, carp freaks, and welcome to the May instalment of Carp Life. Today I am in North Yorkshire at a beautiful little place called Carpvale Doubles. Now we've only got a few hours here today, but hopefully we can catch a carp or two for the camera. So what I'm going to do right now is I've got my Polaroids. I'm going to have a lap of the lake, try and find a fish or two, and that'll give me a chance to tell you what I got up to at the start of May. I'll tell you what is carpy. Ivy, growing up trees. That's carpy. Well, last time you saw me in the April's Carp Life, I was 4 days into my session at Spitfire Pool, and I was blanking like a good one. And unfortunately, my luck didn't change. I say luck, that really does seem to be my unlucky bogey venue. But after speaking to lots of people that have fished the place and done well on there, they all tell me that the same thing, that the lake is very much solar powered. And it is so true. Any sort of sun on there, and the lake just seems to come alive. But unfortunately for me, for the majority of my session, it was cold, wet, overcast, blowing a gale. Just the worst conditions I could have asked for. It makes it such hard work locating the fish. Although it's only a small lake, I think when conditions like that, the fish just seem to hold up in the weed and they don't really move a great deal. Also, the water clarity was really coloured, which made it hard finding fish, finding any patrol routes, feeding areas. In fact, I didn't really see any signs of feeding fish while I was there, really. It wasn't until right at the end of the session where the sun came out and, true to form, the lake really did sort of come alive. I think I saw more fish in the final 24 hours of my session than I had done in the 4 days of that previous. So I'm going into the final night of my session here at Spitfire Pool. Nothing to report so far, but this is probably the most confident that I've been during my time here. I've had 2 days now of warm, sunny conditions, and it really has sparked some new life into the pond. At the start of the week we'd hardly seen anything, but today the fish have been quite active. In fact, those pads over my shoulder there, I saw 5 fish in those pads today, which is almost half the stock of the lake. It's only 12 carp in here, and one of those fish was the wood common. And it looked absolutely massive. I mean, I know it's a 50-pound common, but it looked huge. I did see the wood common. I saw it swimming around quite a bit. And on the last night, going into the last night of my session, it stayed in a small hole in the lilies. I had a rod there, it was presented perfectly. And on that final morning, I just thought it has to happen. I woke up and the wood was still there. In fact, I saw it crash right on top of the rod. So this is my final update from Spitfire Pool on my last morning here. It's a beautiful morning. Temperatures are going to get up to the high teens today. And nothing's happened through the night, but the wood common is still very much in the area. A short while ago it boshed out in the pads that I'm fishing right over the top of the hook bait, right over the top of it. So it's there, I've got a rig there, and he's got about 6.5 hours to make a mistake. Let's hope he does. I thought it has to go, but unfortunately it just didn't. It wasn't meant to be. But either way, it was an absolutely fantastic session. I was there fishing with Jim Wilson, who a friend of mine, another Fox consultant. We had a great time, and although we both blanked, I think it both made us just even more keen to go back next year and settle the scores. Well, I've had a lap of the lake, and although it's still only early, it's a really warm, sunny morning, and I had seen a few fish just milling around on the edge of this weed down this margin. And I've been flicking in a few floating trout pellets now for about 10-15 minutes. And they are taking really quite confidently, actually. So I'm just going to flick in a few more. I'm going to get a surface rod set up and see if we can catch one. Well, I've just moved one swim down from where I was originally putting in them floaters. There does seem to be a lot more fish sat in front of this peg here. And I'm all rigged up, I'm ready to go, and this is a setup I'm going to be using. I've got a Fox extra large bolt bubble here, and you might look at the lake behind me and see that it's only a short cast in it and a small lake. And why do we need the extra large? Well, the reason I like the larger size is it enables me to cast well beyond where the fish are feeding, and then slowly retrieve and draw that rig back in amongst those feeding fish, almost sneak it in place so they don't really know that a hook bait has been placed there. Also, that larger size really does emphasise the bolt effect. And to emphasise it further, I've only got a short hook link here of around 18 inches, maybe 20 inches long. So as soon as it picks up that hook bait and tightens up, it feels the full weight of the float. The hook link itself is the 12-pound Zig and floater, and that goes down to a size 10 Zig and floater hook. I've got a small piece of silicone over the eye of the hook there, just so that the gape isn't narrowed in any way, and it just improves the hooking properties of the rig. The hook bait, that's presented almost, I suppose you'd call it like KD style. I've whipped down the shank about 8-9 turns, then kicked the hair out, then whipped below it another 8-9 turns before whipping back up. So that way the hook bait sits really tight to the shank of the hook. I always think then when a carp's below, looking up, the hook itself is almost masked by the silhouette of the hook bait. And that's it. Really, really simple. Oh, I've just given the hook link and the top sort of 3 feet of line a go with some Vaseline, just to ensure it all floats, nothing's going to sink in the weed. If anything does sink behind the float where the fish are feeding, so imagine that's kind of like that, and there's fish coming up and feeding, if they come in contact with the line, it will spook them. So all this does need to be floating. And that's it. So let's get it out there and see if we can't catch one. Well, on my way back from Spitfire, I called into AJS Fisheries to pick up some medicated boilies and also some automatic feeders. I'm going to place an automatic feeder on the stock pond and also on the main lake. Because I'm on the road quite a lot doing filming and tutorials and things like that, it's not always possible for me to get down the lake every day to feed the fish. So these automatic feeders will be perfect in those situations.
Spin 2, a couple of hours later, 8 AM.
Will they need it that much? Will they need it every 2 hours? Every
2 or 3 hours.
There's not that many in there. I think there's only about 30 fish in there now.
Right. Okay. So we probably only want it four spins a day probably then to start with.
Right.
So we'll have this one at 10 AM.
Yeah.
Program. Again, 1 second to start with, get them tuned into it, get them feeding. So you'll see them react to it. They'll be flashing under the feeders, coming up from the bottom. Once you're there and you're confident they're regularly under the feeder and they're tuned into it going off, then you can start to increase it.
Yeah.
And then obviously as your growing season goes on, as your water temperatures rise, then you can uplift to, sensible amounts. But if you've only got a few fish in there, then you're never going to need it on, 10-second spins 6 times a day, because you'll be dumping quite a lot of pellets.
Yeah. Now I've had quite a few of you asked me if I'm going to be feeding the fish at all. Obviously when we drain down the main lake, a lot of the natural food items will have been lost when we removed all the silt. But the lake is fed by a stream, and that stream is absolutely full of life. So it isn't going to take long for the natural food to build back up. But I have also been introducing natural food items back into the lake. A friend of mine, Sam, he managed to get me a big bucket of really big water snails, so I've put them in. And also, when we drained down the lake originally, I rescued a lot of the swan mussels that were on the lake bed, and I kept them in tanks at home, and I've put them back into the lake as well. But I will also be feeding the fish. Like I just mentioned a short while ago, I've got the automatic feeders to go in place, and at the moment I'm just going down pretty much every day, and if I'm not down there every day, my dad's going down when I'm not, and we're feeding them on a mixture of pellets, boilies, and at the moment medicated boilies. In fact, here's a little clip actually of the sort of bait I'm introducing at the moment. Well, I'm currently in my garage preparing the feed for the fish down the lake. I've got here some coppins and screttins pellets, and what I've been doing, I've been boosting them with some vitamin and mineral food supplements, as well as some antibiotics. Now the fish have undergone quite a bit of stress this winter, what with draining down the main lake, then transferring them to the stock pond, then draining that down and transferring them back. And when they go through stress like that, it can lower their immune system, and it makes it harder for them to fight off any potential infections, viruses, diseases, and it can also just affect their overall health and well-being. So the inclusion of the antibiotics and the vitamins and minerals should raise their immune system and help them fight off any potential nasties. All I've done is just coat the pellets with some vegetable sunflower oil, just to give the antibiotic powders just something to stick to, basically. If I use water, it would start breaking down the pellets and they'd turn to mush very, very quickly. So yes, I've already added all the powders here. I've also got the medicated boilie there as well, again just to further boost their immune system, and been feeding this now for a couple of weeks, and I can see the fish, they're just looking so healthy, and I think if I carry on doing this through the year, they're going to see some fantastic growth rates. Previously in Carp Life, I mentioned I was wanting to remove a lot of the trees around the banks of the lake to reduce the amount of leaf matter going in. As the leaves break down, they're a massive contributing factor into the build-up of silt. And after all the work and ball ache that's gone on down there this winter, I certainly don't want to find myself in that same position 10, 15, 20 years down the line. Now, Dan from Total Trees and his mate Dave, they'd seen the videos and they heard what I was planning on doing, and they very kindly offered their services. So they arrived on a bank holiday Monday and got stuck in. That noise goes through me though. That noise goes through me. When the missus is doing a nail, it's just that. To me, it's like when, fingers down the blackboard, yeah. Nails on that's that noise to me. Although I am quite proficient with a chainsaw myself, a lot of these trees were big and also growing out into the lake. So I could have taken them down quite easily, but they just ended up in the lake and being a right chew on getting them back out. So it really was great to have the expertise of Dan and his mate Dave there. So a massive thank you, lads. I owe you one. Following week it was time for more tutorials, and once again I was back down at Stannick Lakes, this time with Richard and Stuart. Now I actually didn't fish on this session. We couldn't find 3 swims that were close together, so I spent 2 days just camping behind the lads. Fishing wise, it was actually quite tough going. On both days there was a fly hatch, and despite us trying black and brown ziggerliners at various depths, the fish seemed totally uninterested in anything other than the natural food. But we did catch a few fish. We caught a few from mallard and also spent a few hours stalking on Swan Lake, so it wasn't uneventful by any means. I actually did get the rod out for all of about 5 minutes. I did notice a few fish cruising around in the little coot lake there, so I fired out a few floaters and they were literally up instantly like Pac-Man, like that. And I had 1 cast and caught one in about 10 seconds. So yeah, it was nice actually to get a bend in the rod. A lot of you have been asking me what the banks and that are like around the lake now after all the desilting work. Well, all the bank side actually dried up really well. There are areas where we dumped large volumes of silt though, which are really soft still, as my youngest daughter Francesca found out. Really?
Yeah.
I literally just said, don't go past there because you'll sink, didn't I? I literally just said it.
Just go.
Come on. Lily pulled me up. This peg's so weedy you can't afford to give him an inch. And it's really coarse, the weed as well. Oh, come on, let's have you in this net. Won't get stuck on the branch now. Yes! That's how we do it. Oh, I came out of the blue. Look at that. You can barely look at it, it's got much weed in there, but yeah, we got one. Well, before we get this fish out and have a closer look at it, I'm just going to get out a few more floaters. There are a few fish still in the area, so hopefully I can get them feeding again. We can have a look at this fish, cast back out and get another one. Well, we got one eventually. That took a lot longer than I was expecting. When I saw them pack manning this morning, I thought it was going to be a case of casting out and getting one first chuck. But these fish are fished for quite a lot on the surface, and as a result they can be quite cagey. They were definitely shying off the hook length, that's for sure. And normally in these situations I'd scale down to the 9-pound zig and float a hook link, but because of the thick weed there's just no point. If I did hook a fish, it'd only end up losing it in that really dense weed. But it makes it all the more rewarding when you know you've had to work for it. Absolute magic. Well, I've just slipped that fish back and there's already quite a few fish taking floaters again, so there could be another chance here yet. Now, something else that happened in May was we filmed a Challenge Christmas special. Yes, in May, I know, but this was going to be a 5-day road trip. And if we'd have done it in the winter months, you know, travelling from venue to venue, by the time you get packed up and on the road, chances are we'd have been arriving or packing up in the dark, and it isn't really the one, so we have to do it in the summer when you've got longer daylight hours. But before the challenge could even get up and running, there was a lot of preparation involved. Well, it's the evening before Harry and I go away to film this Challenge Christmas special, and I'm just on with sorting out my kit and bait and loading the van ready for what will be a 5-day road trip. Now, 5 days is a long time to be on the bank and on the road, and anything can happen, and I need to be prepared for every possible eventuality. So what I thought I'd do, I thought I'd just show you the sort of things I've packed and the level of prep that I've put in to ensure that this challenge runs as smoothly as possible. Well, this week I'm going to be fishing a variety of different venues. So I've packed a variety of different rods and reels and setups. Let's have a look at what we've got. In this bag I've got what would be my kind of go-to rod and reel. That's the 12-foot 6-inch 3.5 pound X5, and that's coupled with the EOS 12,000 reels. This is the setup I use for the majority of my fishing. It's ideal for short to long range, perfect for PVA bag work. But if I'm going to be fishing small waters where I know my fishing's going to be all at short range, close quarters, then I do like my 10-foot 3-pound Torx, and these are coupled with the EOS 10,000 reels. Then I've also got another lightweight setup. I've got some 12-foot 2.25 pound Horizon X rods coupled with the FX9 reels. Then I've got another small short rod in there. That's a 10-foot 3.5 pound Horizon X with a EOS 10,000 reel. And in that sleeve I have a that'll be a spod marker rod with a EOS 12,000 reel. I've got a floater rod and reel there. Then in here I've got I think that's just a spare X5 with a EOS 12,000. And speaking of spares, I have a spares box here, and that's kind of got spares of everything. I've got spare spools of line, spare reels, that's a EOS 10,000. I've got an FX9 there, FX11 with an EOS 12,000 in the bottom, spare PVA, spare lead, spare catapult, the spare head torch there as well. I mean, you don't know, I could drop my head torch in the water. You just don't know what might happen, and I need to be prepared for everything. Then I've got my alarms in here. These are the RX Plus, and I've got a set on some 3-rod buzz bars. I've got a set on some 2-rod buzz bars, and I've got three or four single alarms there that I can just put onto single bank sticks. Just saves me having to unscrew alarms and then put them onto sticks, and you know, it's just quicker. It just speeds things up. So yeah, and there's also loads of spare bobbins as well. There's bobbins of various different sizes, some little lightweight ones, heavy ones. There's the quiver arms there. spare bank sticks, all sorts. And then here, got spare impact spods, spare PVA, spare catapults, spares of everything, I think. And in this bag, I've got all my spare terminal tackle bits, from baiting needles, foam, hook link material, pretty much all of the edges range is in there. So I know no matter what I need to be fishing, I'll have the tools in there to be able to do it. Just more spares there. I think this is a bag of, there's hooks, there's packs of hooks, zig bits, spares of all sorts really. I've got some chest waders, wellies, then I've got some baits. This is all stuff in here for PVA bag mixes, crayfish meal. What else have we got? Pellets, roasted peanut meal, squid meal, mini ultra mix. What else? What are they? Roasted peanut chops. So yeah, stuff for PVA bag mixes, spod mixes. Then in here I've got some jars of particles, some liquids, liquid liver, liquid tuna, Nino Gren 365. What's that? More of that. More liquid liver, liquid sweet corn. Ooh. Some jars of pop-ups there. Trout and halibut pellet oil, that's for coating my floaters to create a nice slick. Speaking of floaters, this is my floater fishing bag. Obviously got some floating trout pellets there. Then in here I've got all my little accessory pouches with all my floater fishing bits and bobs. There's the line, hooks, scissors, boilie soap, everything I need floats in there. So yeah, everything I need for all my floater fishing. Some spare floating trout pellets there, a couple of bags. Then already in the van I've got my barrow, tackle bag, a couple of retainer slings in there, my ultra brolly, some landing nets, bed chair, bucket of pellets, and camera, which will hopefully get some use. So I think I've pretty much got it covered. All I need to do now is get it loaded into the van. Well, the van's loaded and I've just finished prepping my meals. This isn't going to last the full duration of the filming, but at least I'll be eating clean and healthy for a couple of days at least. It is a bit excessive, I'll give you that. Now I can't say too much as to what the challenge was or how I ended up, but we fished some awesome venues. It was great fun, and I think it's going to make a fantastic programme.
Face kind of overexposes if I want the fish to be dark, because it's so black, it just kind of, it's just black against your top. It's like merges. It's alright.
That doesn't sound very alright to me.
That'd be fine.
Can you take your top off?
I don't think anyone wants to see that. Comment below if you want Mark to take his top off in the next episode of Carp Life. If he gets over 50 comments saying yes, take your top off, in the next episode he will take his top off. He will. So.
Here he comes.
Yeah.
Hashtag Carp Life.
Yeah, that's a £20, isn't it?
Pan. 20 pan. Probably just a double actually. You reckon? Cracking video. Harry eating a banana. This is what people want to see. Yeah, keep going. I want to see it all go. That's it. Keep going.
I'm not letting you film me insinuate things.
I'm not. I'm just watching you eat a banana.
Childish. That's what you are. Childish.
I want to see it all go. Can you take it all? All go. Come on.
Only a bit at a time.
Come on. There we go. Nearly finished. Nearly done. There it is. Come on. Hold on. Oh yes, there it goes. Well, this is our final day of filming the challenge special. I can't give much away, but as you may be able to tell, it's been carnage.
Now, as well as doing filming, tutorials, work at my lake, there's been two major things also going on in the background. And the first one of those is preparation for filming In Pursuit of Carpiness 2. Now, when we finished filming the first one, neither Harry or I ever thought we'd film another one. It really was such hard work and also very costly. This was our own self-funded project, and yeah, all that travelling, it did cost a lot to make. But that many of you got in touch and said, when are you going to make a second one? That we just thought we have to do it. And often with sequels, they're a bit of a letdown, and I didn't want that to be the case with this. So the majority of my spare time has been spent researching potential locations, venues, trying to speak to the right people, and now I honestly think with the destinations and locations we've got, I think it could be absolutely incredible. I'm so excited, and as I sit here right now, there's little more than a week before we fly out and start filming. So yeah, really exciting times, quite nervous as well at the same time, but really pumped. So the other major thing that's been happening in May is I'm moving house, and this has all been a bit of a whirlwind really. I mean, just a few weeks ago, it wasn't even in our thoughts to move, but then this came up and we're moving. That's it. It's all happened literally in a couple of weeks. And we get the keys in. We get the keys to the house the day before I fly out to film In Pursuit of Carpiness. So yeah, it's all been very much a whirlwind. It's taken up a lot of my spare time, and I'm sure when it actually comes to moving, it's going to take up even more.
Well, Alex has just popped into town to get me a cooked chicken. He very kindly offered to go and get me my dinner. And when he gets back, I've got a little present in there for him.
And here he is. We've got a nice little mirror of about 12, maybe £13. But it put up a proper tussle in that thick weed. We've only got probably an hour of this session remaining now, but I would like to try and catch one more before it's time to call it a day. Absolute magic. At the end of May, it was the kids' school half term, and knowing that I would be away from them for 2 weeks to film In Pursuit of Carpiness 2, I spent most of that week with them. We went out for a nice cream tea at a hotel not far from where I live.
So I'm out with my youngest daughter Francesca and we're doing a bit of pond dipping. Well, I say a pond, it's actually a stream or a beck. And this this little site here is where I caught one of my very first ever fish. I think before this I'd only caught them, where are you going? I'd only caught them from like a trout farm. It's just like my first wild fish, if you like. And it was caught from this very pool. This exact pool. And I was about, I don't know how old I'd be, 6, something like that. There it is. Tiny little pool. I mean, you can almost jump across the river beck. It is actually a river, it's called the River Seth. You can more or less jump across it here. Yeah, I think I came down here not long after I'd moved into the village, and I came down here just flicking, I think it's flicking like a bunch of maggots or some worms underneath the overhanging trees, and I caught a few trout and a 1 pound grayling. So yeah, this brings back a few memories coming here. Let's see if we can catch a 1 pound grayling today. We can try. Right, so what have we got then, Francesca?
We have got caddisfly larvae.
Caddisfly larvae. Let's have a look at that. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
and what else?
We have got a bullhead.
A bullhead. Oh, look at that. Oh, I just heard a trout then. Did you hear that one? Splashing under the tree.
So we could find that.
Well, it's a bit deep for our wellies. But yeah, he's cool, isn't he? Little bullhead. Yeah. Cool, should we put them back?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on then.
Oh, you little... Look what that blackbird's done. Look at it. The little bastard. I said it was looking shifty, didn't I?
Let's make it worse, mate.
How can a blackbird do such a big shit? Massive, wasn't it? That's just smeared it all over, hasn't it? Doesn't look any better.
Oh, that looks worse. That looks like a diarrhea stain.
And it smells. It actually smells. You would have thought blackbirds had smelly toes. You wouldn't have thought it, would you? I've not really talked a great deal about what's been happening at my lake this month. I've simply not had the time really to be there and do the work that needs to be done. But it is coming on nicely. It's all, most of the banks are all dried up now after the desilting, and I can't believe how quickly everything's grown over again. I mean, it was an established lake in the first place. It's been dug since the mid-90s, but everything's all greened over, the trees are all in bloom, and it looks a completely different place. But there is a lot of work still to do. I need to rebuild the swims, I need to put a path back around the lake, redo the track going down, and the car park as well, all needs redoing. So yeah, there is a lot of work to do. There's a lot more trees that need to come down, although we have the help of Dan and Dave. We managed to get a load done, but there's still a lot of big trees that need to come down before they start shedding the leaves this autumn. I don't know if I'm going to have any more time to do these jobs next month. I can't see it, but it needs to be done. But I've got time on my side. The lake isn't going to be opening until 2020. And speaking of that, a lot of you have been asking, what exactly is the situation? How is it going to operate? Well, it's going to work on an exclusive full lake booking, where up to 4 anglers can hire the lake exclusive Monday to Friday. It doesn't have to be 4 anglers. You can book it for 1 person, 2, 3 or 4. And it's going to have quite a low stock. I don't want it to be the sort of place where people are just going to turn up and expect the alarms to go. It won't be like that at all. As a syndicate, it was always tricky fishing. The original fish in particular were very, very cautious fish, and it wouldn't be unusual for them fish to only visit the bank once in 3, 4, 5 years even. So yeah, they are cute fish. I would probably anticipate, if it goes anything like the syndicate days, if a party of 4 anglers was to book the lake, then I would expect maybe half a dozen fish to come out during the week. But those half dozen fish will be, or are, hand-picked special fish. For me, every carp capture should be a special capture. It should mean something, and you should go away with those memories, and they should last forever. And that's what I want the lake to be, where if you only caught 1 fish all week, it would mean something, and you'd never forget that capture. And that's what I want. So it's a bit like, in a way, I guess, a bit like Spitfire Pool, where I was last month, or Redmay, or something like that. That's what I would like to try and achieve. I'm not saying I ever will, but that's the sort of plan I have in my mind. But although it won't open until March 2020, I will be taking bookings for that from October this year. But I'll keep you all updated as the diary's going along, and then October I can start taking bookings. Well, that's it for me at Carpvale doubles. It would have been nice just to catch 1 more fish, but we're approaching the middle of the day now, and the fish did just go off the boil a little bit. They became really quite finicky and just couldn't provoke another take. But still, 2 fish in a short morning's fishing, I really can't complain with that. But I do need to be on the road now, because I've got a few loose ends that need tying up regarding the filming of In Pursuit of Carpiness. And the next time you see me, I'll have got back from our big global adventure, and no doubt I'll have lots to tell you about. So I'll see you then.